Hi, welcome to episode 2 of Inside Events with Togather. Today we're speaking to our head of partnerships at Togather Live, Chris, about why F&B at events is more important than ever before. Welcome,
Hello.
Chris.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Can you just say hello one more time?
Hello.
Why do you think F&B at events is more important than ever before?
Yes, that is a broad question. I think over the last few years, it's clear that F&B to people at events is perhaps even the number one thing now. Like, obviously, lineup's still important. The music's kind of initially why you go, but I think people are looking for that more experiential thing, and they want to go to an event that's got it all. And food and drink plays a huge part in your day. Like, having great food there, having great drinks there, is vitally important now. And I think, the festival market is quite saturated. There's a lot of festivals, and people at the moment are more picky with where they spend the money and what festivals they go to. And I think food and drink plays like a hugely important role in choosing which events you go to. It's tough out there at the moment, but people will spend their money if you give them great things and the right things. And I think it's kind of more important than ever, I think, to create a whole experience at a festival outside of the music.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And why do you think at this point in time specifically, what is it about this year 2024 that's meant that F&B food and beverages are more important than they ever have been before at events?
Yeah, like I said, I think the most important thing for me, which has been evident, is like I said, I think people, it's tough out there at the moment in terms of the economy, and people, they're really picky with where they spend their money. And I think standing out as a festival, food and drink is the most important thing. It's how you differentiate yourself from other festivals. And I think, you know, you're spending money on an experience, and you want that to be incorporate lots of different things now. So like I said, like, music is obviously still vitally important, but you want to go to an event that's got it all. It might be only a couple of times a year now where you get together with your family or your friends, and people want to spend their money on great things. So I think, now more than ever, like, I think it needs to incorporate everything, like, and kind of food and drink is front and center outside of music. It is the most important thing.
Why do you think F&B is more important to them than it is to older generations?
Yeah, I think nowadays, the younger generation, everyone's obsessed with food, like food and drink. It's like, it's a huge thing in life. And since social media's come along, Instagram's come along, going to an event, as I said, music vitally important, but people are tagging, the food suppliers in their posts. That's what they're going for, like, alongside, your favorite artists. It's like, have I eaten a Nanny Bill's burger? And they'll get that on their Instagram, and they'll tag them, and they want people to know that they're eating that burger. So I think, like, at the moment, it's the exciting thing. It's like, outside of, like, going to an event, listening to the music, being with your friends, it's like, what are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? People are so excited to kind of share that. And it makes you cool, Have you had this? Have you tried chicken sours? It's like, yeah, I have. They were great. And it's a real talking point. It's what people kind of love. So I think that's why, like, and particularly with, Gen Zs, it's like, it's front and center of their festival experience now. It's like, what did you eat there?
What about the power of social sharing when it comes to suppliers? Because we know that some of the F&B suppliers are essentially celebrities, headliners in their own rights now.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. I speak to festivals about this a lot. It's like, how can we generate more awareness for our event? How can we even increase ticket sales? And the way to do that is by bringing in these F&B suppliers that sometimes have 2, 3, 4, 5 times more social followers than the actual festival. Nanny Bill's Chicken Sours, I've dropped in Truffle Burger. These guys have got 150,000 followers on Instagram. So, like, going to a festival that's got those guys there, tagging them in that, it generates a lot of awareness for your event. And some people go to these festivals because of them. Like, you get a good food lineup, people are going to the event because they want to go and eat that food. And it's a real differentiator in terms of festivals. I say this, I was speaking at AIF Congress a couple of months back about this, and it's just like, how can we generate, more money on site? How can we increase spend per head? And the way to do that is by bringing these guys on board. People will go and spend their money on things that are exciting and things that are great and the quality's great. And these guys, as I say, they've got so many followers on social media, and some people go to the event just because of those guys.
Nice, yeah. It makes complete sense, and yeah, it's been great to see how these brands have essentially become, celebrity brands who can bring a lot to the event in that regard. And I wanted to ask, like, from your perspective, what is it that makes a quality F&B supplier?
Yeah, there's a few things, and there's a lot of different suppliers out there, and I think that's important as well. Like, not everyone's going to be the same, and you want that within your food lineup as well. You want different cuisines, you want different setups, but I think at the moment, food quality is obviously always vital, but how things look, people really represent, visually how something looks. Like, they'll go and spend their money there because it looks great as well. So, at Togather, we put, a lot of importance on suppliers that come on board. We want them to taste great. We want the staff to be amazing and engage with customers, but we want them to look great as well. I think somewhere it said, people take about 7 seconds to associate themselves with a brand. So, if you've got like amazing aesthetics at that festival and your signs lit up, and it's like, it's really, really important, So I think those things in particular, it's like food quality, who's working behind your stall. Because, I've been to festivals, Club Mexicana are a great example of this at El Dorado. I'll be walking through a festival trying to decide what I want to eat. They've got this huge like neon sign, they're pink, and their staff were incredible. There was music playing, and they were like engaging with people as they were walking past, and it made me want to spend my money there. So I think that's vitally important, like food quality, how you look, and the staff that are working with you. I would say those are the 3 key things for sure.
From your perspective, if the F&B isn't of a high quality at an event, what effect will that have on a consumer?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, for the consumer, well, and the festival, is like people won't spend their money. Like, gone are the days of spending £15 for a flat hot dog. Like, people just won't do it anymore. Like, they want that quality because the quality is out there. I think the most important thing for festivals, if you don't get the F&B right, honestly, now we live in an age where people just won't come back. And that will be tarnished with your event. Like, people, like I said, the flip reverse of what I was saying earlier, people want to talk about food, they're excited about it, right? They'll go and tell their friends what they ate. That also works the other way. It's like, oh, I went to this festival and the food was really bad. And like, it's such a vitally important thing. If you want repeat customers, you want people talking about your festival, the last thing you want is them to go away and say the food was rubbish, So yeah.
Excellent. Okie dokie. So I wanted to ask something about what is it that perhaps most surprises organisers in a positive way when they've got really high quality F&B suppliers along to their event? What effect does that have on them post-event?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. First of all, like what I touched on earlier, the most important thing is like your spend on site. So if you have a good food lineup, like, you'll see like the revenue on site will just shoot up. Like, we look at it together all the time. Like I always say, we're massively data driven, right? We focus on it. It's like what sold well, what didn't, where did it sell well, and we kind of move these little levers in order to kind of help increase spend. I think if you've got a great food lineup, organisers will see post event like how much money went through those tills. Like, we just look at that data and it directly tells us if you put quality there, people are happy to spend money. Also generating awareness for that festival. As I said, there's this word of mouth thing, this snowball effect of like, did you go to Crank Brother last week? Did you taste the truffle burger? Did you go to El Dorado and have Club Mexicana's tacos? It's like this word of mouth, it really snowballs about like just generating excitement, buzz for your festival. And I think like at the moment it's so important to stand out from the crowd. There's so many events and there's so many good ones, but at the moment the differentiator here is like what was different outside that music lineup. We see it often now, like you look at events, there's so many similar music artists that play at all these events, and what will set you apart is kind of what else was there. And F&B is the most important thing outside of music. I really, really, truly believe that. It's really exciting, and that's what people go and talk about. So, yeah, I think if you've got a good food lineup, you'll see the revenue shoot up, which is obviously important for events, but you'll also just see the awareness and buzz around your festival increase as well.
And if we're talking about, well-known names on a food lineup, we're starting to see festivals, putting the name of those suppliers literally on the festival poster or on a separate poster. Yep. Do you think that's going to become a trend that we see more and more of?
100%. Like, it is like the music lineup now. If you've got these big hitters like at your festival, and that's from like brands that have got brick and mortar, like we mentioned a few of them, Nanny Bill's, Truffle Burger, who all like street food legends. It might be Beirut's, who are really well known in that circle as well, or Chubby Dumpling, right? And releasing those, on your socials and as kind of a lineup poster, it's like creates such a buzz. Like I said, it's like, how do you get people talking? How do you get people excited about your festival? I think that's only going to increase. Again, at Togather, we like really focus on that. It's what we say to festival organisers, like, they come to us with these questions of like, how do we stand out? What can we do differently? And it's like elevating supply is the number one thing. So working with these really hot brands that are kind of either got restaurants or just like really hot in the street food market is really important. Yeah.
Nice. And in terms of Togather and how it works, can you give me an example of an event where Togather has come in and really kind of upped that lineup at a festival and the effect that it's had on the event?
Yeah, for sure. There's a few. I mean, Crank Brothers stands out for me. Crank Brothers are really, really interesting one, right? It's an electronic music festival, all in all. The guys there are really innovative in what they want to do. Everyone talks about those events now. I think when we started a few years back, 3 or 4 years ago, it was, we were in the middle of kind of like pandemic era, and we were kind of just trying to get a food line up there of suppliers that were still in business. Over the last few years there, we've kind of put names in there. I think we had, Truffle Burger was one of them that stands out. Dom Subs was also there one of the years as well. Not only is their food increased, but the buzz around that food at that event has massively increased as well. I think we've seen like over a 200% increase in sales at Crank Brother in the last 3 years, just by putting these well-known brands in there, and people wanting to spend their money on that. Dom Subs is a prime example. It's like everyone loves that brand, right? And it's like they were at Crank Brother, and it was just really, really cool thing to have there. And the proof's in the pudding, excuse the pun, but the money there on site just massively shot up.
Yeah. And on the other side of it, obviously we've talked about food quite a bit. There's the drink side of things as well. What do you feel like people's attitudes are towards high quality drinks and beverages at events? Has that changed as much as well?
100%. It's hand in hand. Like now, again, it's like, I mentioned people won't spend 20 quid on a rubbish hot dog anymore. It's the same. They won't spend, £10 on a warm pint. It's like, they want to go and spend their money on something that's really, really good. I think last year we saw the rise of the seltzer. It was like, if you get that right and you go with that trend, everywhere I walked in El Dorado, people just had like about 6 seltzers. They were holding some, they had some in their pocket. So I think, again, it's like people are expecting the quality of what they're spending their money on to be good. And like, we know in this day and age at the moment, it's difficult out there, but we also know that people will happily spend their money if you give them something good. They don't mind paying with their cash if it's for something great. So the drink side of things, just as important as food, is like you've got to get that right. I think, it's got to be great tasting. It's also got to be with trends. It's like, what do we want at a festival? If you go to a festival now and they just sell pints, you're going to lose a lot of business. Like, you got to have cocktails there. You've got to have seltzers, like I say. Even natural wines coming into it at the moment. It's like people having natural wine stores. So I think, just as important as food, get the quality right for sure.
Yeah. No, that's a really, really good point. So sustainability has now become a really big talking point with events. People are making choices on the events they go to based on sustainability and how seriously the event takes it. When it comes to F&B, how can suppliers take this seriously, and how can events go about making sure that they're being sustainable with the F&B suppliers that they're bringing in?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I think it's the same with what we touched on in terms of quality of food and stuff at the moment. Like, people, it's a lot more front and centre than it's ever been. Like the planet, the environment. The good suppliers will do it naturally. You bring them in and they've already got that, in their head. We ban single-use plastic, but I think pretty much all suppliers do now anyway. It's vitally important, and people, when they're looking at your festival, they'll look, music, food lineup, drink lineup, who's there, what's your sustainability credentials. It's really, really important now. I think everyone should be thinking about it. And as I say, the good suppliers do naturally.
You mentioned earlier the Crank Brothers event, which is obviously a London day festival. Is this a trend that we're seeing across all the events that Togather does?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know we've talked about music festivals, but obviously we work with, organisers that do all kinds of different events. But it's just as important. The same rules apply, so to speak. We work with Royal International Air Tattoo. We work with Pride in London. those guys are just as focused on food quality as well, and bringing in those lineups. It's the same. Public that go to Royal International Air Tattoo will only spend their money on things that are good too. They want that same quality. So it's definitely across, all of the events industry we've seen for sure. Everyone's thinking about it, organisers are thinking about it, and we're thinking about it. So yeah, 100%.
Pride in London, you say?
I did say Pride in London.
The biggest event in the UK.
It is the biggest event in the UK. Is it one of the biggest in Europe? I might give them that tag. 1.5 million people go through central London.
So you're saying that Togather do the biggest event in Europe?
I am saying Togather potentially do the biggest event in Europe, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me. Or do quote me if it's true.
Do a knowing look in the camera and say, yeah?
Wait, where am I?
I don't know.
I'm over that.
Yeah. All right. And, okay, so clearly there's a bit of an art and a science that goes into putting an F&B lineup together. How does Togather do that?
Yeah, don't want to take all the cred here. We've got the lovely Emily who does our lineups over at Togather, who works tirelessly to bring these together. I think, there's a few things. Balance within cuisine is really important. There's often a lot of focus on the stodge, so to speak. So you want your pizzas there, you want your burgers there, of course you want your fries there, because they sell really, really well. But crowds are looking for something different as well. There needs to be some healthier options. There needs to be vegetarian, vegan options. It's another thing in today's society. There's a lot more people not eating meat. So you need to get that balance right. Also, for Gala Festival, for example, they have a huge focus on trying to bring local suppliers in as well. So I think, 30-40% of their lineup, those guys will be from Peckham. So they'll trade in Peckham, or they originate from Peckham. And that's important to festivals as well. And that's across the board, everywhere we go. So it doesn't matter whether we're up in Scotland or, we're down here in South London. It'll be, okay, local first. That's how we start our lineups. Obviously, the food's still got to be great. We don't just want to just get Bob's Burgers in. No offence to Bob, but yeah, it's local first, and they've got to be great. And it's great having those guys there. It's a real community feel. When you go to Gala, and if you haven't been, I would definitely recommend going. Having local suppliers there that people know from the local area, it's such a cool thing. Bringing them into that. Supporting local businesses, it's vitally important. We do it at Togather, and a lot of festival organisers are wanting to do that as well.
Events feel like they're becoming more of a big thing, and it feels like organisers are realising that putting F&B in can suddenly turn what was, a day out into a real occasion. Mm-hmm. Together working with events who are seeing that?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of examples actually that we're working with this year. So the boat race, for example, Oxford-Cambridge. Go Oxford. I'm from Oxford. They've got suppliers there now, and I think 3 or 4 bars we're putting there as well. Because as you say, it's becoming a real thing now, and a cherished thing. People getting together with their friends, getting together with their family, and going to these events now. Organisers are thinking and knowing that this is a real occasion, and if they can elevate that whole experience, it only it's better for everyone. The customers having that experience, but also the organisers are seeing this as another revenue stream. Similar with London Marathon, who we're working with this year as well. It's we've had quite a few calls of those guys, and they've never really focused on that before, and now they're seeing it. Across the UK, is it's a real revenue stream for these organisers. If you put something great there, people will spend their money. Who doesn't want a big fat burger after running?
Okay, so the type of food is a really good question here, and I think that this fits into the generational gap, right? Because I think people naturally talk about how there's an emphasis on healthy food,
yeah.
But I actually think there's maybe more of a appreciation that you need to have a balanced diet, and that treat food fits in with it. How do you think people eat at events? Particularly over the course of a 3-day festival like El Dorado.
Yeah.
What kind of would people want from a lineup over the course of that?
Yeah, you need to serve everything, right? I mean, essentially, you're going to live somewhere for 3 days, 4 days, so you don't just want to eat the same thing over that period of time. So you might want an ice cream one day, or a big apple crumble. The next day you'll be eating a savoury dish. It's about balance and making sure that the customers have got everything that they potentially could want. And these festivals, they know that. Like you say, I mean, there'll be a real diversity between savoury suppliers, sweet suppliers, coffee suppliers, and international cuisines. Because as I say, people are going to live there for a few days. So you want your breakfast sorted, you want your lunch sorted, you want your dinner sorted, and it's okay to have a little treat sometimes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And okay, so it feels like hospitality restaurants, pop-ups, you can't move for new things happening. How do you feel like that's influenced people's approach towards food and drink at events?
Yeah, it's so important. It's really really cool. So a lot of restaurants now, we're kind of taking the stars to the street. So a lot of these restaurants kind of want to now do pop-ups and come to these festivals. It's very good brand awareness for them. Obviously, as a revenue driver as well. You know, we've been talking to the likes of Acme Fire Cult, who serve just down the road from us, who are potentially, hopefully, going to do stuff with us, you know, in the future. They want to come and do banquets. I mean, I think Lost Village do this really well. They get like amazing celebrity chefs there. They get like all of the best restaurants doing pop-ups. I think Dishoom's been there before, stuff like that. Again, it all ties into that same thing of like making that experience for the customer incredible, right? If you look at Lost Village over the last few years, who they've had there, you know, people will definitely go to that festival for food and drink. There's no doubt in my mind. Just for that, they might not even see any of the music. You know, I'm sure they will because it's great. But yeah, I think it's a really exciting thing, and something that we're really focusing on at Togather as well is like speaking to these restaurants that might not have thought about doing it before, and saying, look, we can actually support you, do a pop up, and it's super exciting.
Yeah. No, that's no, it's really, and like I think that banqueting thing is something that's interesting, right? And it was probably something that was kicked off by, you know, Wilderness and a couple of other really boutique festivals. Are we seeing that becoming something more universal now?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like mainstream now, isn't it? Wilderness were probably the founding fathers. I mean, excuse me if another festival did it before. I'm sure they probably did, but I think they were known for it, right? And you've got a lot of festivals bringing that real dining experience to their events now. As I say it, I mean, it's just as important as the music, and I can only see that increasing.
Yeah,
it's a real other revenue stream for festivals and organisers as well if they get that right.
Yeah.
If you get that right, people pre-event will spend 50, 60, 70 quid alongside the ticket revenue for a banquet meal, right?
Yeah.
So banking that for organisers, particularly at the moment, super important. Yeah, and it's super exciting. I mean, I love it when I go to festivals and they got banquets on. It's like sit down with your friends, food and drink sorted, and then go off and see an artist. It's brilliant.
Okay, and what about the fact that, you know, you speak about spending time with your friends at a festival there. Obviously, it's, you know, potentially a rare chance to spend some really good quality time going to an event with family or friends. Why do you think food and drink kind of underpin that?
Yeah, I mean, it's excuse me for being cliche, but it's like, you know, food and drink really does bring people together, right? Even at home, it's like everyone in the kitchen sitting around a table. It's like that's when you have great conversations. It's the same at a festival. I think, you know, it's quite a rarity now, which is sad that people do get together as much as they used to, perhaps, particularly with family. I think maybe still get together with friends and stuff, but particularly with family, I think it's hugely important. So if you can have something at that festival, whether it be street food, whether it be a banquet, where you kind of can pull all that together and create that environment where good conversation happens and memories are made. Again, like, sorry to be cliche, but it's really true. It's like, you know, if I go to a festival, I often go to them with my dad and we sit together on a hill and have some good food together before we go and see the music. It's great and it sticks in your mind.
No, that's it's a really, really good point, and it really does, you know, it leaves you with a great taste in your mouth.
It does leave you with a great taste in your mouth, which is what you want.
Which is what you want from the event. And what's the best event you've ever been to?
Best event I've ever been to? I don't want to be that guy, but probably Glastonbury.
What was the best thing you did at Glastonbury?
I can't say that on camera.
What's the best thing you can say on camera that you did at Glastonbury?
I threw my hands in the air and went on my friend's shoulders naked.
You can't say that on camera, man.
I think we can.
Yeah, all right.
I didn't want to tell you the other thing. But
give me your top 3 Togather events that everyone should go to this year.
Top 3 Togather events that everyone should go to.
Obviously got to have this on camera because that was incredible favouritism. But tell me anyway.
Gala, because it's just great and fun. London Marathon's going to be amazing, I think. And Curveball, Riyadh.
Riyadh's amazing.
It is. I've not been.
It's 90 food suppliers. I think it's 100. It's 100 plus this year.
Pretty incredible.
What's the best event you've ever been to?
Best event I've ever been to. I hate to be that guy, but it's Glastonbury. It's just bloody brilliant.
What's the best food you've ever eaten at an event?
There's a couple. Beirut's falafel wrap is up there, and then Soya Pit, not an event, but a Togather away day, really sticks out. Amazing.
And what about to drink at an event?
To drink at an event, Aperol Spritz, Little Orange Van. great.
That's a great shout. All right, well, we're getting close to wrapping this up, so I wanted to ask, if there's one takeaway for event organisers, what do you think it should be?
Yeah, I think in the past, when you were organising your festival or event, food and drink potentially, came second, third, fourth down the line of what when you start planning it. I think, try and get that as near to the top as possible, because, as we've touched upon earlier, F&B at events now is so important. So working on your lineup, elevating that, engaging with really cool street food brands and restaurants, doing pop-ups, etc., it's going to have a massive effect on your spend per head. So it's going to increase your revenue, and it's also going to have a massive effect on the buzz around your festival and generating more awareness for that. Word of mouth is still, vitally important. So I think just try and focus on the F&B as early as you can. Have those exciting conversations, get a great lineup together, and it really will affect, your bottom line. So yeah, I think that's what I would suggest and advise.
Cool. Okay, I think the next major event that we've got coming up is going to be Gala Festival over in Peckham Rye Park. Which supplier do you think everyone should try there?
Good question. One I'm really excited about is It's Bagels. I don't know if you've heard about them, but there's a real buzz around them at the moment. We're actually working with them to do their first ever event. So I think if you're at Gala, go and try it. The bagels are incredible. So yeah, that would be my top tip.
Nice. Thanks very much for watching. That is the end of episode 2 of Inside Events with Togather. Look out for episode 3 coming soon.
That's a wrap.
And there we go.